You could be larger than life.
All right. Welcome to Live Life Driven podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I am here with Justin Farrington, my quarantine buddy. How you doing?
That's right. We are quarantined, aren't we?
Well, thank God you're my neighbor, and we live in this wonderful country, God's country, Montana, where we got a lot of space between us. Not too many neighbors.
It's not really great here, Jim. I mean, the mountains aren't snow-cast. We don't see elk out there. I mean, it's really cold here.
Don't come.
Yeah.
Don't come to
That's
Montana.
my point. Yeah, it's bad. Roads are icy.
Well,
Vehicles falling off. You know, I'm not
think-
gonna let you get a word in.
Yeah,
Keep
right.
going.
I think the point here is we're trying to be optimistic. We're enjoying what we can, and I think we're in the best environment for ourselves to be up here in Montana, do what we're doing, which leads me into the topic of today's show. I'm going to call it the show Courage, but I want to open it up with making the most of your life. And I heard a quote today from Les Brown. He was talking about making the most of your life, and Les Brown is he's a lifelong business coach. He's a legend in public speaking and coaching. And he said, if you could do your life over again, okay, so think about however old you are right now, certainly applies to me. If you could do your life over again, could you do it better?
100%.
Right, because you've learned a lot in the time that you've been on this earth. I'm 52, you're in your
46.
46, so
We're close.
if I could do it over again, I know I could do it better.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Knowing now what I didn't know then could have really helped me out. Making decisions, all kinds of different stuff. I would have moved to Montana probably a lot sooner.
Yeah, right. Hey, so again, it sucks up here. Don't come up here.
It's terrible.
But I think it raises a really great question about living and making the most of your life. And when you think about what we're all going through as a nation right now, as the world is going through COVID, this gives us an opportunity to restructure who we are, what we're doing. We talked about 75 Hard last week, which is a great program to get in a different mental state and create some strengths in your life, not only physically but mentally. And here we are with time on our hands, and why not use this time to reevaluate your life, see what you can do better, how you can work harder, make more of it, spend more time with your family, etc. And the first thing I want to talk about, this relates exactly or directly to you, Justin, is I'm going to take this time to learn a new skill.
Oh, boy.
So
Does this have something with a string?
it has something with the string, and I'm not talking about a guitar. I've got a lot of guitars around my house, but I'm going to take this time, and I want to encourage people that are listening to think about something that they've wanted to do, or maybe they've heard about and it sounds interesting. Use this time to learn a new skill. I mean, with the internet, you can learn anything on the internet. And now with the way that Amazon is, even up here in the country, we get Amazon. Well, I think my neighbor said the UPS truck here is in our neighborhood every single day.
Every day. Every day, if not once, twice, or 3 times even.
Yeah, so I'm going to get out of my comfort zone. Yourself, Justin, and our other neighbor Kyle, you guys are big bow hunters.
I wouldn't say that we're big, but yes, I've never hunted with Kyle. Obviously, I just met him after moving here and stuff like that. But I've been bow hunting for big game animals since about 2007.
Right. So, and I've never hunted for anything in my whole life besides cans. So
they don't fill the freezer.
No, they don't.
Those cans.
They don't. And so I guess my point is, yesterday, you guys were gracious enough to pull the bows out and show me the ropes, at least how to pull that thing back and aim a target and hold it and grip and all the safety mechanics of it. And boy, I was instantly humbled. I mean, and I don't want to get too technical because we probably don't have a lot of bow hunters on the show here, but I learned that at 60 pounds, I couldn't even pull the string back.
Well, you just had surgery on your shoulder, man.
Well, I appreciate the break. I couldn't even get the string back 6 inches. But I used the women's bow that was 40 pounds, and I was able to do it. But what was really great about that, and this is the whole point, we'll do a bow hunting show,
100%,
show another time.
100%.
But what was interesting about it, Justin, is that you're passionate about it, and you took the time to teach me something. And all day today, all I can think about is learning how to use that bow and arrow and the discipline that it takes. Could you just tell, me again and the audience a little bit about the discipline to learn that particular skill? But I think it relates to all things that you learn in life. If you're consistent and you're driven to learn about it, that's the important part, and that's the value in it. So give me a couple discipline points on learning the bow.
Well, exactly, just like what you talked about. It's repetition and consistency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going out there, learning what not to do, bringing it back to the practice field, and practicing what you did or what you didn't do out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different variables. When you're out hunting big game animals, whether it be elk, deer, bear, moose, sheep, any of those big game animals and everything like that, you got to understand something. They make their living surviving.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
Good point.
Right? We have all this high-tech stuff. We have binoculars. We have rangefinders. We've got these compound bows that can shoot ridiculous speeds, 390 feet per second or 290 feet per second, more realistic. There's some bows out there that are just absolutely crazy. But, they make their living staying alive. That's all they do.
Yeah.
So when we go out there, we stink like a human, right? You look at all these big game animals; their noses are huge. We might be able to beat them with their eyes. We might be able to beat them with their ears, but we can't beat their nose whatsoever. So, one of the tough things about bow hunting, you got to get close.
Mm-hmm.
To be ethical, you have to be close to the animal. When you're close to the animal and you step on a piece of grass that's a little bit too old or
Crunchy.
brown,
Yeah.
they're going to snap their head around, right? And they're going to see you. And then you have to make this maneuver where you got to pull the bow back and align your peep and your sight picture and everything like that. So one of the things about being consistent is going out there and practicing, doing something over and over and over again, going out in the field, realizing that you've been practicing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
You've been doing the wrong shit. And then coming back and refining your practice,
Yeah.
You become a master of your craft is what I call it. And I'm far from it. Guys out there, I follow Cameron Haynes every day. The guy's an animal, does ultras. He shoots his bow every single day. He shoots his bow out to 160 yards, which is equivalent to like shooting a 1,600-yard rifle shot. Ridiculous.
So I'm glad you brought up Cameron for this reason.
Yeah.
So going back to making the most of our life and our day and learning new skills,
Mm-hmm.
there's an incredible amount of information about bow hunting.
Yes, there is.
I have found in the last week, because I've been talking to you guys about this for a week, you guys are passionate about it, and it was infectious, and I wanted to be a part of that. So I've been doing some research in the last 7 days, and what's incredible to me is here's a sport I knew nothing about, and yet all of a sudden this is a whole new world that I'm learning and I'm interested in. There's depth to it and passion from these people like Cameron Haynes with, millions of followers and all
Right.
this success and what he's doing. And I think that, to me, that's what the real lesson is here's something that I can learn. There's a lot of great people in the industry and a lot to do. And that's what's fascinating, because if we dig deep enough, and maybe not even that deep, there's a ton of interesting things out there that we can all do as human beings. I'm picking bow hunting right now as something to learn because that's what my neighbors do. You guys gave me the infection here. I want to do it. But
Oh, it's a disease, man.
you know what?
You're going to grind on it and grind on it and grind on it, and one of the things about that, you bring that up. There's so many different articles you can Google bow hunting. You'll hear about people's stories and what to do and what not to do and everything like that. You got to be careful, because everybody's got a story, everybody's got an idea and all that type of stuff. And fortunate or unfortunate for you, you get to deal with Kyle and I about how we were brought up. I was brought up with a old school bow hunter and stuff like that. He's now in his 70s, and I learned his way, and that's basically my way now. And that's kind of how it works. It's worked for me. It definitely worked for him. But it's one of those deals where you just got to be consistent, and you got to find out what works for you.
Okay, so because again, I don't think we got a lot of bow hunter listeners here.
Right.
What I want to close on that thought is learn a new skill. There's probably a ton of information out there to learn that skill. There's probably more people involved in that than what you can imagine because, as I've said in the last 7 days, I can't believe how big this industry is. I'm really excited to learn more.
I'm excited to have you pull the bow back.
Well, I am too. Now, I'm not, and I'm going to be upfront about this, I'm not 100% sure about actually going hunting, but I sure like shooting that target and how it felt. So, story to be continued. And, you know, real quick, we opened this about learning new skills. We brought up the string. And I said, well, not the guitar string, but, that's another great thing that you can go out there and learn, especially when you're in quarantine. You can order a new guitar on Amazon, have it shipped to your house tomorrow, and learn how to play music. And by the way, I'm going to give a quick shout out to my old guitar instructor because he's been working really hard. I've seen the last, since we've been in quarantine, to do these online instructional videos. And his name is Mark Hamrock. And it's Hamrock, HAMROCK _music_instruction on Instagram. And what I love about that is this man has changed his business model where you used to go to his house, learn how to play guitar,
right,
go back home and practice. He had to change his whole business plan. You can't go to his house anymore.
Right.
And here he is adapting to COVID, making the most of his life. Right? Creating something special. And now you can get your lessons online there.
And he's helping people out.
He's helping people out.
Yeah.
Giving people something to do. I want to shift gears because this is something I haven't talked a lot about since I've lived in Montana. And that is my actual move to Montana from California.
Yeah.
And I hope my new Montana friends aren't listening. The ones that grew up here, not the transplants like you and I.
Yeah.
People
because they're not they're not fond of the Californians.
Well, this is a great place, and as we opened the show, we said, "Hey, don't come here. It's terrible." The fact is, it's wonderful here, and we're very fortunate to be here. But when I started posting some pictures of Montana, people were like, "Hey, you moved?" And I'll just say this right now as I kind of get into this, is that Justin also recently moved here to Montana. He's my neighbor. He's been here. Well, his family's been here a couple months longer than us, so we're both new to the neighborhood and new to the state. Although they've traveled here in the past and I've traveled here in the past, we didn't call it home then. And people just thought, wow, you live in Montana now? How did that happen?
Right.
Well, I'm going to tell you, because, again, I haven't said this publicly on my shows, is that I put a plan together 2 years before we moved here. And my wife and I, we have our goals in our lives and what we want to do, and this became a part of our goal, and that was to move out of California for a variety of reasons. And I would say the biggest reason is to give our kids an environment where they can enjoy the outdoors, a different style living versus what I call the concrete jungle, and I know that's a little bit of a cliche. And I decided that we were going to put together a business plan so that we can afford to live here, and that's what we're doing. It took me 2 years and focus of being here for those 2 years, and now I work out of my home. I do business consulting, life coaching, and just about any other little thing that I can get my hands on, I suppose. And it's been great. And Justin, you're in a similar situation. You guys formulated a plan. Can you tell me briefly, what the process was with your family? And this is why it's important to answer this, and this is what I want people to hear is, it's okay to make the most out of your life. And if you're dreaming about moving somewhere, you can do it. And so I gave you my brief story. Justin, what's your brief story why you guys came here?
Well, I tell you what, it was a pipe dream for me about 15 years ago. It was the first time I stepped foot in Montana, and it was like, this is where I want to live. But it was a pipe dream. I wasn't as accurate as you were. We can use that term, accurate, or consistent with writing it down, saying, hey, within 2 years I want to move here. But, I said this previously on one of the podcasts. We lost our home in the 2017 fires. And
in Northern California.
In Northern California, that's right. And